So let's take a look at the official stuff for CNIT 121. We are down here to Module 5, Online Investigations, and I've got it here. All right, so if you want to work undercover, which a lot of people do. Now, the old-fashioned undercover, you'd actually like physically infiltrate a mob or something, but on the internet, it's very easy to run undercover, and I know a guy that does this. He has like 20 fake personas to infiltrate foreign cryptocurrency gangs and stuff. So you can build a profile by using reconnaissance methods. You can monitor what people do with wiretaps and other online techniques, and you can make a sting operation to get into a gang and talk people into doing something bad and catch them in the act. So to generate an identity, you make what's called a sock puppet. It is a fake identity you wear like a costume online. There are fake name generators. There are tools that will create fake profile pictures, and you can make an email account and financial accounts and VPNs and so on, and you can make a really thorough fake identity. All right, and so law enforcement requires a wiretap to intercept phone conversations and so on. So if you do that kind of surveillance, you do need to get legal authority to do it. And then, of course, there's dark web investigation. The web that you can reach through Google or a search engine is only 5% of the web. Most of the web is hidden behind some kind of barrier. Now, most of it is hidden behind a login, like your Gmail. Your Gmail is not public. You have to log in with your name and password to see it. So it's information on the web, but it's not available through a search engine. But then there's the dark web, which is stuff that is hidden because it's illegal. So you have to have Tor to reach it, and someone has to tell you the URL, because all the URLs are these long random strings you could never guess. There is no way to search for them all, but people put things there because they're illegal, like Silk Road and such. And there are various open source intelligence tools to guide you how to search for all these things online. But Tor is the main essential tool. Tor is a U.S. Navy project. The U.S. military had a problem. They had spies in other countries, and those spies need to communicate with people here over the internet, but if they do, they'll get caught. So they said, here's what we'll do. We'll make an anonymity system and distribute it to people, and then a bunch of idiots will start surfing porn and watching pirated movies on it, and that will create a background traffic so our spies can send their messages and won't get caught. So that's Tor. And every few years, the people using Tor that claim to be like they hate the government realize this is a military project. We're sending our data right to the government, and freak out, and then they forget it again. But anyway, Tor people can volunteer to run Tor nodes. I did for a while. And once you do, you will receive encrypted traffic, and you forward it to another node. The traffic is encrypted 3 times, sent to 3 random servers, and then it gets to the destination. So you can't tell where the server is, and you can't tell where the client is, unless you actually have access to all the intermediate systems and you can correlate the logs. And nobody would have that unless they donated most of the bandwidth to the system. Now, as Tor, in the last 5 or 8 years, Tor has become so appalling that almost nobody will do it. Even MIT quit donating, I quit donating. Almost everything on Tor is appalling. It's child pornography, malware attacks, just horrible stuff that you don't want to be involved in. And so pretty much the only people donating bandwidth to it is the U.S. government now. So you are pretty much handing your data to the U.S. government, and there's a lot of argument the U.S. government can in fact find you when you're using Tor because it's going mostly through their servers. But anyway, aside from them, it's there. Anyway, so it's this is where a lot of criminal activities are, and the most famous one being the Silk Road, which was a bazaar that would just sell guns and drugs and murder for hire and all kinds of services for Bitcoin. And they caught the first operator and shut it down, but another operator came and ran Silk Road 2, and they caught him too, and he's in jail for life. But anyway, there's an endless chain of illegal sites hiding behind Tor. Anyway, so you get Tails is a live Linux operating system that gives you anonymity, but it's very difficult to use. It basically is running a sort of ESX server that's running 4 virtual machines. You have a separate virtual machine for each category of data, one for social networking, one for banking, and so on, so that your different parts of your life would not leak into each other, even if you fall for an attack. There's another network called the Invisible Internet Project, similar to Tor. I've never seen anybody use it. Tor is by far the most popular one. And you can find all kinds of stuff behind Tor. Then there's IRC. IRC is Internet Relay Chat. It's been around since before the World Wide Web. It was originally just a way for Unix users to talk to other Unix users on the same server, but then they connected the Unix servers together, so you'd be in this text-only chat room, and you could send information. It also, like Tor, has been completely overwhelmed with revolting illegal content. Almost everything on there is malware or something else horrible, but a few people still use it, and Freenet is one of them. Anyway, then there's Secure Drop. The Freedom of the Press Foundation has made a Secure Drop, which is the point. WikiLeaks started this. WikiLeaks was the place where you could send stolen data to be a whistleblower about something like Chelsea Manning did. The problem is it was run by sort of a lunatic. Julian Assange was sort of a crazy and unstable guy, and he kept leaking out the identity of the people that told him stuff. So he would get caught and sent to prison, which is kind of a flaw here. So Secure Drop is an attempt. The Freedom of the Press Foundation tried to make one of these to be more secure. The Washington Post has their own anonymous line where you can connect over Tor and send them stuff, and so does the New York Times. And as far as I know, none of them have been hacked. When WikiLeaks found out all these explosive things, all the major press organizations said, hey, we need to get a way to get those things too. And they opened up some version of Secure Drop. But as far as I know, I haven't heard of any really major news stories that came about from these Secure Drops yet. But if you do have like a secret about a political figure, this is one way to report it to newspaper and hopefully preserve your anonymity so that you won't have to go to jail for it. And like I say, dark web marketplaces are out there. Like the Silk Road was the main one, where you could buy anything, and they took a percentage of it, and so the runners of it made a lot of money, and all kinds of people made a lot of money selling drugs and other things illegally here, but they got caught because the people that ran it were just kind of sloppy, and they got caught. Playpen was child pornography, and of course that's incredibly illegal. Just possession of it will get you in jail for like decades. So the people who are addicted to this stuff have to do something extreme to get it, and so they used Tor, and they went online marketplace Playpen, and this presented the U.S. government with a problem. How do you catch somebody over Tor? Well, here's what they did. They hacked into the server. Now, if you take a 129S class, you learn you can just use the proxy. The burp proxy is what we're using, and then if they make a flaw in their online stuff, you can find a flaw, inject commands, take over the server. It's quite common. So they hacked into the server and took it over, and then they modified the web page to say, you have to update your Firefox or the government will catch you. Download this new version, and the new version of Firefox would send data directly to the FBI, telling them you downloaded this thing, you're a bad guy. So that's how they caught the people using Playpen. And so that was a pretty good idea. They got 350 arrests out of that, although I think they had to dismiss the case. And because they could argue that they'd done something illegal, installing malware onto the machines, and also, at the same time, the vigilante group, Anonymous, hacked into the server the same way, and they dumped out a list of all the people publicly, and they altered that list to add people they hated who were not on the list. Said this is why the cops hate vigilantes. They're just idiots, they just do stupid things, they just ruin the evidence in the case, so you can't really prosecute people. But, I mean, technically it worked, but in practice they weren't really able to defend it in court. There's another huge problem with all these techniques. When they go to court, you have to explain what you really did. And if you used some kind of secret technique, you don't want to expose it in court and burn it. And another thing, which is really annoying, the NSA is not allowed to target American citizens, but they do. What they do is they surveil, they wiretap people, they find out data on American citizens, then they hand it to the FBI. The FBI then prosecutes them, and when they go to court, they do something called parallel reconstruction. They don't want to admit they got the data illegally from the NSA, so they pretend we had an anonymous source that told us this data, and that's what goes to court. They call it parallel reconstruction. I have no idea how this can be legal, but it really happens. Anyway, that's why, our Fourth Amendment protections seem to be pretty much a thin veneer over, they just sort of do whatever they want and get away with it, largely. And clearly it depends on how rich you are and how good your lawyers are. It's part of the corruption of the American system, which is pretty disgraceful. Anyway, so Operation Bayonet was another one to shut down the notorious marketplaces at that time. And they got $23 million of assets and so on. By the way, when they took down Silk Road 2, they got like a whole bunch of Bitcoin worth like $50 million, and the FBI agent stole it and kept it and went to prison himself for stealing the Bitcoins. So this tends to happen when the police themselves get corrupted. When they find a bunch of stolen money, they tend to re-steal the money. So virtual currencies are a big deal. And there's all, for decades, people have wanted to find some way to do financial transactions over the internet. And you can do it with like Visa or MasterCard now, but then it's all recorded and it's all legal and stuff. That's what normal people do. But if you want to avoid fiat currency, which is legal tender that comes from a government, backed by a government, you have virtual currencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and there's many others, there's hundreds of them. And so it's just a computerized ledger of transactions. That's what Bitcoin is. It's just a record of who owns the coin and who transferred the coin to somebody else by account number. So the coins don't have any apparent value, but you can see who owned a coin. And there's a way to mine coins, but there will never be more than a certain amount, more than 21 million Bitcoins. So it is, from an economist point of view, it is the hardest of hard currency. It is like gold. There's only so much of it, and people can bid up the price to whatever they want. And since you can use it to perform illegal transactions like Silk Road or money laundering or tax evasion, it has value. And people bid it to have value. So it has risen up to something like $50,000 for Bitcoin. It has risen a lot. So it has turned out to have some value, even though it's not backed by any government. It is a place you can put assets, and you can access them from anywhere in the world, and nobody can steal them. Nobody's ever successfully stolen any significant amount of Bitcoin. So that's it.
How the beginning value was created? I mean,
Originally, it had zero value. In the 2008 financial crisis came, the UK government just printed a whole bunch more money to cover it, and so did the US government. And at that time, this was considered a disastrous economic move because the Austrian economics says if you do that, you'll just collapse the economy. So rebels, there were people working on digital currency, and one anonymous person using the fake name Satoshi Nakamoto had announced Bitcoin and started mining it. And the first block has a comment, and that comment was the headline from the London Times the day they devalued the pound. And he said, I'm going to make a different currency where no government can ever do this again. They can't print more, they can't devalue it, it's going to be controlled by software. And he just started mining it, and it was worth nothing. But the people who were enthusiastic started mining it. One of my friends mined it at that time, got some, and for like 3 years it was zero value, and then somebody put up Silk Road. And suddenly you could do something with your Bitcoin, and it rose to $300 because people found it valuable. And then I think people in Argentina found it because their local currency was so terrible. The inflation rate was like hundreds of percent a year. So it was better to put your money in Bitcoin, although it was illegal to do so. So that was money laundering, and tax evasion essentially. And then a variety of illegal activities appeared, which gave it some value. Then came Silk Road 2, then came ransomware, where you had to pay in Bitcoin. So it turned out that Bitcoin did have some value, and that caused the price to rise. So there are some cases where you want Bitcoin, and if there's any desire for it, and there's a limited supply, then it will rise to some price.
because my understanding was that the mining is basically the solution of this algorithm. You have an equation that have to solve.
You don't even solve an equation. It's like printing lottery tickets. You just make random numbers, and whoever first gets the random number that's small enough, they win. All you do is you add a random number to the block, and you hash the block. And the hash is effectively random, and the first hash that starts with like 56 zeros, you win. So it's just a random lottery, but the fact is you can make a lot of money that way. It turns out the Bitcoin you get can pay for more than the electricity and the hardware if you get the best hardware. So the fastest computers in the world are mining Bitcoin, which is one of the many reasons people get mad about it, because they say all this power and all this heat and all this carbon in the atmosphere is being created for what? Well, to create this currency, which is a hard currency, which apparently has a lot of value to people. So you could argue that you're getting something for that. You could also argue this is stupid and everybody should just use real money. There are proponents on both sides. But whether you like it or not, Bitcoin is there, and it's staying there. It is a currency. Anyway, so you store it in a Bitcoin wallet, which can be a software on your machine, or it's much better to get a hardware wallet like a USB stick, which is much safer because you normally don't plug it in and nobody can steal it. The problem is, if you forget the password, your stuff is gone. And something like 15% of all the Bitcoins that have been created have been lost this way. You lose the hard drive, you lose the password, there is no way to recover it. That's right. If you use Visa or MasterCard and you lost your money, you could get it back because you can go to the bank and ask for it back. But there's nothing like that for Bitcoin. If you lose the cryptographic key, it's just gone, gone, gone. And so that's an issue. Of course, it's the same if you were to just have gold. You've got the gold, but if you lose the gold, there's no way to ask somebody to give it back. That's what it is. So that's what Bitcoin miners do. And like, this is what people say, it's solving a mathematical problem. That is not really true. It's just making random guesses until it's lucky. It's much more like printing lottery tickets. But anyway, that's the game. So Venmo and Vicemo are peer-to-peer payment services. I never heard of Vicemo. I certainly heard of Venmo. This is what gets Matt Gaetz, the congressman from Florida, in all this trouble because he would pay underage prostitutes with Venmo, which is public. A lot of people have their Venmo public. Joe Biden's Venmo was public until a few months ago. Apparently, by default, everybody can see your transactions. So all kinds of people buy embarrassing things and then only find out later that everybody can see what they're doing. I've never used it. Anyway, all right. So website evidence, the Wayback Machine is pretty awesome. It keeps copies of web pages for the past several decades. It doesn't copy the whole web page, though. Not all the links are there, but it copies portions of web pages. They're usually the front page and maybe a few other pages so you can see what web pages used to look like, and that can be helpful. And there's a lot of statistics out there. Just like there's Nielsen ratings and there's betting markets for the presidential election, there's a lot of interest in how popular websites are. Investors would like to know how many people are going to Yahoo, how many people are going to Google, how valuable is this business? And Netcraft is one of the organizations that keeps track of those statistics. So if you want to learn about people, this is incredibly easy. As we all just found out about a month ago, one of the major data brokers, National Public Data, lost all their data. It was all just dumped out publicly. So if you Google it, you will find everybody's social security number in America and everybody's last 10 years of your addresses and everything is all public data now. That's why I should remember to add a project where you learn how to freeze your credit, because we should all be freezing our credit. But anyway, that's the point. There are a bunch of databases in America that have everything about everybody, and they just sell it for a price because it's legal in America, which is pretty appalling, but it is. And so here's many sites you can go to find out all kinds of information about people. And there's a lot of chat channels and places where people are chatting about things, and if you find ones of interest, you can go there. This, by the way, is one thing that the head of Cloudflare has said. I've heard him give talks. He said, people complain sometimes that there's an evil site behind Cloudflare where people are doing bad things like plotting malware attacks or posting stolen data or something, and people say you should take it down. And he said, law enforcement officials have talked to me many times, and they've never asked me to take it down. They've told me to leave it up because now we know where it is and we can infiltrate them. Taking it down, they'll just go hide somewhere and we can't find them. Anyway, and then of course social media, Facebook, Twitter, and all that jazz is out there. Twitter used to be very useful to communicate with criminals and find cyber security information. The entire cybersecurity community pretty much left after Elon Musk went in, and now they're pretty much on Mastodon instead. But anyway, the most popular ones went back to Twitter, though, the ones that really need a large number of followers. But most of the professionals that are on Mastodon, at least that's the only place I see them anymore. I had a big popular Twitter account, but I abandoned it after Musk got in because he made it into basically an all-right Nazi place, and I'm not willing to contribute anything to it. Anyway, you can search using metadata with various tools that will look for metadata hidden within documents. You can use Shodan. Shodan will find servers not by the content of the web pages, but by the version of software they're using. So it's useful to find vulnerable services and such. All right, and there's a lot of law enforcement that can share data in various ways, Real-Time Crime Center, and there's one I'm in, I don't see here, the High-Tech Crime Investigators Committee, I'm in that one. That's the Secret Service. But there's a bunch of these groups you can join, Counterterrorism Center and stuff, that share data among interested parties. So identity theft is huge. By the way, can you guess what the #1 crime is online that steals money from Americans? It wasn't the first thing I thought of. The FBI sent this out about 2 years ago. What's the most common way that Americans get their money stolen online?
Phishing?
There's a specific kind of phishing. It's not, there's a specific kind of scam that's used. What is it? Well, you could call it that, but it's more specific than that. It is romance scams, where somebody pretends to fall in love with you. You hit humans where they have an emotional weakness, and almost everybody is like lonely, and I wish somebody would just understand me. And there are people who have just figured out how to exploit that. They pretend to be your one true love. they romance you, they get a beautiful picture, and then they say, you know what you need to do? You need to invest in this great opportunity, buy this cryptocurrency or something. They also call it pig butchering now. It comes from China. That's the number one way you suck money out of people. I remember I went to the bank and they had a poster sitting by the teller and it said, if you have come here to get a cashier's check to send it to Nigeria, please don't do it. The problem is it is your money. They have to give the check, but they say, no, don't do it. You're going to be sorry. Yeah.
What I don't understand is how can the relationship can go on for months without you ever seeing the other person?
It can go on for years. And it's not that hard to do. You send them pictures, and then you can't visit because you're far away, because you have a sick mother,
Well,
because you have...
Let's Zoom.
Yeah, well, that's right. Zoom is... This was before Zoom. Now that they have Zoom, you can make fake personas on Zoom. They're getting very good. There was a case about 6 months ago where there was a executive at a company, and the boss called him into a Zoom meeting, and there were 5 members of the company there. You could see them, and they spoke with the real voice, the CEO and the treasurer and the other people, and they all said, we just joined this company, we just made a deal, you have to send all this money somewhere, and they were all fake. The AI is so good, they look like the real person, and they have the right voice, too.
Yeah, there's a website that does this.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and besides, if it's a romance scam, all they have to do is look like somebody. So they can make a fake AI face or just copy the face of a model or something, and then they can just have a Zoom session if necessary. But the point is, you tell them, I have, my mother is dying and I spent all the money on her and I don't have a good internet connection, or I have a jealous husband I'm trying to escape from and he beats me. You've come up with a story, which is why you can't visit and why you can only have limited communication. And this just makes the bond stronger because now he's the hero rescuing you from this bad situation. Con men have known this all the way back, so long before the internet. You create a situation where there are obstacles that prevent you from communicating in more detail. And that just makes it more real. It makes the illusion stronger. It's all, you get a hook into them, an emotional hook, and then you use that to control them. This is also how you recruit spies. You go hang out at a bar where people are working for the other company, you find somebody that's drunk and you say, you know, they don't pay you enough. You find out they have some problem and you provide that, and then you say, now you did something for me and I'll tell your boss unless you do more. This is exactly, manipulating people with emotional attachment is an old technique, and it works fine on the internet too. Yep. Yeah. They make transactions private. Yes, that's right. Yep. Got busted in SF. I see a few comments there, but it's all stuff we talked about. Good. All right. Anyway, so that's so identity theft is huge, and that's why we should all be freezing our credit, because now the information is out there, social security number and your addresses, so people can make loans in your name. And you can buy credit cards online. They steal them in huge batches and just sell them. You can buy electronic medical records, which are considered quite valuable. Then there's cyberbullying is huge, especially among kids. This is why an increasing push to stop kids from using social media until they're adults, because they will get bullied, and the women, like little girls, will be subjected to sexual advances from older men. There's no need. It's just like putting them in a bad part of town. It doesn't really make sense for them to be using social networks unless the social networks would actually content moderate and clean up and make a safe social network, and none of them seem interested in doing that. In fact, Facebook is greatly criticized because they ran studies and found out that their product was very harmful to young girls, and then they just ignored it and promoted it anyway to make money. Especially Instagram seems to be the worst. And I suppose this is because on Instagram, everybody uses filters to make themselves look more pretty, and they make fake shots. So you get the impression that everybody else is richer and prettier and happier than you, and your life is worthless when you compare yourself to these impossible figures that have created this fake online persona. But anyway, this is apparently very, very bad for young girls. Not so much for young boys, but young girls in particular get depressed and suicidal and stuff online. So anyway, it's a huge issue. And like social media and cyberbullying, as we all know. So you can capture online communications. Any online communication like Snapchat that tells you nobody can make a copy of it, that's of course not true. They could just take a photograph of the screen. They could do a screen capture. They could save it on their machine. It's probably stored in a cache somewhere. You know, anything you send could be preserved and redistributed. So a lot of people send embarrassing pictures and then they're upset when it leaks to everybody. This is a huge problem. And a lot of kids actually commit suicide and stuff because they can't stand the humiliation, which is really a shame, you know. I mean, look at characters like Donald Trump, get caught doing appalling things, you just roll over it and keep going. When you're young, teenagers get super upset when they're embarrassed. When you become an adult, you discover, you know, you could do a bad thing and you could go on and continue living anyway, you know. You don't have to like kill yourself over being embarrassed. But in teenage years, people are just too emotionally unstable. A loss in social status can get them too upset and they do something terrible. Anyway, so there's a lot of information about online communications, and you can catch it a lot of ways. All right, so I think that's enough of that. Let's take a look at a Kahoot. Chapter 5 is right here. All right. And I'll try and rearrange this so it doesn't get cut off. See how it looks. Yeah, that's good. You can see the number. Single-letter names here. It's like they're spelling something out. Caitlin did that, you know, the hacker. She hacked the system. She ran a program that made like 64 counts, and it would automatically guess every question. So one of them will get everyone right. That's one way to hack it. It's pretty obvious, though. If somebody invents a good cheating program like Kahoots, they'd earn extra credit for sure. I don't know how you can do it because you don't know the right answer, but maybe there's a way. It just looks in memory. Well, I mean, Mimikatz can do a lot of things, but to cheat at that game, it just looks in memory. It's right there in memory. So it's very simple. In fact, I have projects in my other classes. Yeah, but they're on the server, so you'd have to hack into the Kahoot server and get it. Yeah, so it wouldn't be so easy. It's like not in your browser anywhere, unless they badly code the site, and that happens sometimes with gambling sites. Secrets are actually in your browser, so people can cheat. It should be designed so all the secrets are on the server, but not everybody is careful. Anyway, yeah, good. Well, we got a lot of players today. I'll wait a few more seconds. All right, what technique catches a criminal in the act? That's a sting operation. You trick them into doing it right in front of you when you have somebody that's joined the gang or something. That's, of course, very effective in court. You're going to really know they did it. You're not trying to piece together evidence and figure out who did it. All right. All right. What system uses .onion? Tor, the onion router. They call it that because you have 3 layers of encryption on every packet, like the layers of an onion. Anyway. All right, so which dark website distributed child pornography? That was Playpen. Extremely dangerous crime. You go to jail for a long time. No, that one was shut down, but other ones just come up. Yeah. Because these people it's compulsive behavior. There is a demand for the service, but it's extremely illegal. You don't want to have anything to do with it. People take it very seriously. It was the #1 FBI priority for years. Now I think it's #2 after terrorism. It's a huge law enforcement priority to stamp it out because people get very, very, very upset because they kill the kids typically. So it involves kidnapping kids and using them and murdering them often. That's why people are very, very, very emotional and upset, and your punishment is very harsh. So, public record of cryptocurrency transactions. That's the blockchain. That's what it is. That's what Bitcoin uses. Bitcoin is just the coin. The record is technically a blockchain. All right. Anyway. Okay, Anthony. V, tell me who they are. All right. But the other two are real names, so they got their points for sure. All right, I'm going to start.